Hello and welcome to Wineskins, a program that features the lives of the saints and reflections on the Sunday readings, along with information on a variety of topics and issues from a Catholic perspective. I'm Father Jim Korda. Our program is brought to you through the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts, a division of the Society of St. Paul. Our interview segment today will feature Lou Jacquet. We will also get a glimpse into the life and times of Saints Cyril and Methodius, along with reflections on the readings for this fifth Sunday in Ordinary Time. That and more on Wineskins. With me now again is Connie from North Canton. Welcome back to Wineskins.
Thank you for having me.
Last time you were here, we talked about your journey through divorce and the ministry that you provide for people, not only in the Stark County area, but anyone who wants to come to this particular program. And we're going to talk about the program now, and it's based on a book and DVDs called Catholic Divorce Survival Guide. Tell us about that.
Some years ago, maybe a year and a half or so ago, I called Dave Schmidt at the diocese and asked him if there was a program that the diocese was considering, and this was the one that he had heard good things about. It's put together by a woman named Rose Sweet, and she gathered some amazing teachers. We have Father Mitch Pacwa on the DVD series that's involved in the program, Dr. Ray Garendi from North Canton, Father Don Calloway, Christopher West, and Father Steve Porter. And it's a 12-week program where there's time for prayer, a DVD presentation by someone who's incredibly well-informed and inspiring and to the point, and then there's a small group time.
And what do you discover during this program about yourself and them? What do you want people to discover about themselves?
That they're not alone. That's one of the biggest ones. Because I have always believed, this is just me speaking as a person, as an individual, but that Satan loves to keep us isolated. Isolation is I'm not talking about solitude, I'm talking about isolation, that mental imprisonment, feeling trapped and abandoned, that is not of God. And so this brings people immediately out of isolation and feeling trapped or abandoned.
Do you also feel that talking with people who've gone through the same situations helpful?
Yes, and what's amazing is the variety of circumstances, because you have people who've left their spouse, you have people who have been left, you have people who have decided there's so many varieties of experiences, but in the end, it's all got the same name of divorce. So there is some camaraderie of sorts that's formed there, and it's like it is a support group, and you feel supported.
How do we in the church kind of get over that whole bad myth about divorce? Because divorce is part of life. Years and years ago, we did not really talk about it. We did not encourage it. We did not support it. But now we know that it's part of life. So we have to be supportive of one another, and especially those families that go through that divorce. So what can we as church do to break down those barriers so people experiencing divorce don't feel so isolated?
That's a great question. And on one hand, we have to be clear that it's a last resort. It is an absolute last resort after any other efforts have been tried to resolve, reconcile. But there are some cases where it would almost be dangerous or life-threatening, whether that be mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to stay together under one roof. And every situation is different, and great discernment has to be taken to decide if and when ever to walk through that door of divorce. But there are people, good people, great people who have had to walk through that door. What can the church do? I like to say that everybody has their own hula hoop. Do you know what I mean by that? Like that you can control what's in your hula hoop. And I can control only so much. And the people I come across going through it, those in listening going through it, because a family member, a parishioner, a friend, a neighbor, you simply reach out to them with kindness, concern, and genuine friendship. And I think that will go a long way. And when we see people sitting alone at Mass, perhaps to go up to them and introduce yourself if it's a new person, or you see them frequently alone, that may not, but it may be a divorce situation.
What about the support system? How crucial is that to have? When we spoke earlier that you are not a native of the area, so many of your support is back in your hometown of New Orleans. So what do people do about support?
God was so good to me. He sent me. I'm an extrovert, so I reach out, I talk, I call on the phone. But through word of mouth, I was put in contact with one particular local lady who was my mentor. She had been through it, and she's a holy woman of God, but she had been through divorce as well. They're not mutually exclusive. I thought they were. They're not. We would meet all the time. If I was going through it, like I felt like I was coming unhinged emotionally, like something huge, I'd call her, and on the spot, she would meet me. We'd meet up at Panera, and we would just talk. We would talk and talk and talk. And she went with me to court hearings. She came to my house if I got bad news from a judgment about custody with the children. I mean, she was Johnny on the spot. So now I feel like if someone needed me, I could be there for them like that, because I absolutely get it. And I do get phone calls from people from previous support groups with, issues or, concerns and hard times. And so passing on the baton or paying it forward, I guess, is something that people are now doing that have been in this program are now doing for others.
For the folks that are with us that want more information, who do they contact? Where do they go? How do they find out about the program?
Yeah, I would recommend calling Dave Schmidt at the Diocese of Youngstown. His number is 330-744-8451. The program in the past has met on Wednesday nights at St. Paul Parish in North Canton on Main Street. Wednesday nights, typically around 7 to 9. That may change, and it will begin the middle of February is the plan.
And also they could probably get more information on the diocesan website at doi.org. Connie, pleasure to have you back. God bless you in this important ministry. Please keep us informed on what we can do to support you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Korda. St. Cyril and Methodius were brothers. To tell us more is Rachel Hrbolich. She is from St. Mary Joseph Church in Newton Falls.
These two saints were proclaimed co-patrons of Europe, together with St. Benedict, by St. John Paul II on December 31st, 1980. The feast itself is on the date of the death of Cyril, the blood brother of Methodius. They were born in Thessalonica, Greece, and became apostles to the Slav nations of Moravia, Bohemia, and Bulgaria. Their feast has been celebrated universally in the Church since 1880. St. Cyril was ordained a priest at Constantinople and taught philosophy there. His older brother, Methodius, after being governor of a Slav province, became a monk. In 862, the Prince of Moravia asked for missionaries who could speak the language of his country. The two brothers, Cyril and Methodius, were selected for the task. They differed greatly from the Latin Rite missionaries from Germany because they were able to adapt to the people they were evangelizing. For example, they created a Slav alphabet, and they translated the Bible and the liturgy into the Slav language. Hence, the characters were called Cyrillic. Cyril died in the year 869 and is buried in the Basilica of St. Clement in Rome. After being ordained a bishop, Methodius returned to the East as papal legate to the Slav nations. During the last 4 years of his life, he dedicated himself to the translation of the Bible and other works into Slavonic. He died in the year 885, and the funeral liturgy was conducted in Greek, Latin, and Slavonic rites. The first part of the opening prayer of the Mass recalls the great merit of the two brothers as missionaries, who brought the light of the gospel to the Slavic nations. Those countries rightly consider Cyril and Methodius as their fathers in the Christian faith. By introducing new languages into the liturgy of the Church, they revived the prodigy of the early Church. The two missionaries not only made the Church resplendent by their work of evangelization, but they are models for the adaptation of the faith to various cultures. They understood the points of reference to the culture of the people, and they knew how to promote unity without imposing rigid uniformity. Because they laid the foundation for a truly Christian popular culture, Cyril and Methodius can also serve as reliable guides in the ecumenical movement. The prayer after communion invokes the Father of all nations, who, through the one bread and the one Spirit, has made us companions and heirs of the eternal banquet. We then ask that He will grant that all His children, united in the same faith, will be in full agreement in promoting justice and peace. All cultures of the Slavic nations owe their beginnings and development to Saints Cyril and Methodius, whether it was the creation of their alphabet or the translation of the liturgical books into the language of the people. Ultimately, the work of these two co-patrons of Europe was an outstanding contribution to the common Christian foundation of Europe. For Wineskins, I'm Rachel Hrbolich.
I'm talking with Lou Jacquet, former editor of the Catholic Exponent. You know, Lou, you were talking about some of the people you had the opportunity and the privilege of interviewing, and what does that do for you personally, having those personalities that were part of your life, part of your career? And as we celebrate this significant anniversary in the life of the church, the local church, what does that tell you?
Well, I think the first thing I'd have to say is, for a small town kid from Bedford, Ohio, to end up working in places like Chicago and Youngstown and Delaware and so forth, and getting to interview people around the world. I used to also be talking to people at the Vatican quite a bit. Mm-hmm. The whole point of it is it reinforces your faith. I mean, you hear these amazing stories of people who live their faith day to day under sometimes incredibly difficult circumstances. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it just made me think, I have been so fortunate to cover this, and for 35 years to do it. Just astounding that, looking back, the people I ran into, the stories I got to cover, the events and everything, covering John Paul II in Chicago when he was first in the papacy, and coming to Chicago, the Polish neighborhood and everything. Just right. Those kind of memories are memories for a lifetime. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget. I look back on that and just very, very fortunate. Everybody that came to town, I got to interview them here. So many different religious leaders that came to town. And you just get a sense of the church is so universal. When one time a cardinal or a bishop from Australia came, and I was astounded. Why would he come to Youngstown? And he said, because everybody in Australia knows Bishop Malone. Mm-hmm. You know, that kind of thing. I mean, you get the sense of how sometimes we're so focused on our own diocese, we don't realize we're part of this bigger, right, amazing church worldwide, you know. Yeah. It was fun to be part of that.
You know, I've often thought of, over the many years that you were with the Exponent, the innumerable editorials that you wrote. Was there any editorial that you wrote for you, that it was something that you felt in your heart and soul that this needed to be done? Was there anything that stands out in any of your writings that you wanted to share with people, or that you felt that people really needed to know or to hear? Anything that comes to mind?
Well, I think, I wrote a lot of individual columns of my own, but that was a separate thing. The editorials were more of a stand for the paper. And I think I constantly tried to push getting people here to look at the broader church, to think of things like the situation in El Salvador, places like that, to look and realize that, we're here in Youngstown, we're here in Canton, we're here in these 6 counties of Northeast Ohio, but the church, the problems that we face, the problems that we have to solve, those are the kind of things that really need to be looked at from a broader perspective. I know when, I think it was Iraq War was going on, I tried to get people to think about that is such a tragedy on every level. It was a tragedy over there. It was a tragedy for the soldiers who had to go. It's just a tragedy that the church is still dealing with, And those are things that people here need to think about, and to kind of go out of their comfort zone. Right. They didn't always got a lot of mail on that sort of thing. And I always said that, I told my wife about this, I used to get criticized from the far left and the far right, which always made me feel I was pretty fair to the 90% in the middle.
Sure.
That was sort of the hallmark of trying to be a decent editor, because you're sort of like a moving target. Mm-hmm. That was part of it. And I always tried to get people to look beyond their own parish. Mm-hmm. I really did.
Now, one of the words that comes to mind for me, but may not be necessarily for you when you talk about the paper, the Catholic press, is that whole word of inspiration. We believe that Catholic television is an inspiration for people. Mm-hmm. In the same way as the Catholic newspaper, can that be inspirational?
Oh, absolutely. People? We used to get mail that would astound me. Something that you would write in 20 minutes on deadline, and trying to get it done just in time to go to press. And someone would write a letter 6 weeks, 6 months later, you changed my son John's life. He turned to God in a way we never expected. Things like that, those stories just came out of nowhere. Yeah. And I should mention, before we leave today, Ed Sullivan was a person I really wanted to mention today because he was a wonderful cartoonist. He was a wonderful reporter for us, former Pauline brother, brilliant man, had a wonderful career. And he inspired people every week with his cartoons. And people think, cartoons are light and airy. Those cartoons touched many, many lives. They really did.
As we continue that thought process about people who have inspired us, what would you hope to be inspired by as you are experiencing retirement, but also many years with the Catholic press? What gives you most inspiration, especially in light of celebrating anniversaries?
Well, I think you begin to realize how fast life passes by. I'm closing in on 70 now, and that seemed impossible when I started in the Catholic press as a young kid. You just realize the swiftness and the fragility of life, and the faith experiences of the people are just astounding to see. There's a richness in the Catholic faith day to day that just astounds me, and it's always astounded me. But to cover it and to be privileged to interview people about it and to try to bring that to the people in the pews, what a gift that was for all the years for me.
What would you like to tell the folks that are with us in gratitude for those who are very faithful subscribers to the Catholic Exponent and those who may not know much about it or don't read it as often? What would you like to tell them?
Well, I think they're missing out if they don't read it. I think you really need to have that week to week. In our case, it comes out every other week. You need that inspiration. You need that solid foundation in your diocese. You need to know what's going on in these counties. You really do. You need to know what the local church is doing. It's a perfect mouthpiece for the bishop to reach his people, and that's not going to change. There are bishops who have said, well, I don't really think I need a paper anymore, and those dioceses are hurting. They really are. And I think the wisest ones are those that are always going to feel, I need a paper, I need a way to reach my people in the pews. And the Catholic press has been doing this for a long, long time, and hopefully it'll be doing it on whatever forms of communication are invented that we don't even know about in the time to come.
Well, Lou Jacquet, thank you so much for your presence on our show today, but also for your many years with the Catholic Exponent. They were fruitful years for us, and we are seeing the fruits of those blessings now. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Father.
And thank you for being with us. Have a good day, and God be with you. For more information on that topic and other related issues, and to listen to Wineskins, visit the website of the Catholic Diocese of Youngstown at www.doi.org. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Available through St. Paul's Books and Gifts is a small treatise on peace of heart, both in book and audiobook form, by author Father Jacques Philippe, well-known preacher and retreatant from France. For more information on this item and many more, please visit the bookstore at 926 Boardman Canfield Road in Boardman, or call 330-953-2443, or visit their website at www.stpaulsusa.com. This book, Searching for and Maintaining Peace, is there to help you pursue peace of heart as a pure gift of God. Again, that phone number is 330-953-2443, or visit their website at www.stpaulsusa.com. Our song today is from the CD entitled Endless Mercy. It is by Vinny, Flynn, and Still Waters.
From your cross, you saw my sin and loved me. You felt my pain and reached through time to heal me. With gentle hands, you pulled my sin into yourself, and by your death, destroyed it all forever. And now I'm free. to walk with you in holiness. Forgiven now, I'll be forgiving too. The past is gone, and every moment now is new. Healed by your love, I'll be a healer with you. From my cross I see your face and love you. I feel your touch and trust that you can heal me. Into your hands I place the chains my sins have made, and I say, yes, my God, restore me in your love. And now I'm free to walk with you in holiness. Forgiven now, I'll be forgiving too. The past is gone, and every moment now is new. Healed by your love, I'll be a healer with you. Healed by your love, I'll be a healer with you. Healed by your love, I'll be a healer with you.
Our scripture reflection for this fifth Sunday in Ordinary Time will be done by Msgr John Zuraw. He is pastor of St. Rose Church in Girard.
Today is February 10th. We celebrate the fifth Sunday in Ordinary Time. The pages of sacred scripture invite each and every one of us to reflect on our own sense of inadequacy in answering God's call. This reality reminds each and every one of us that we do not need to be fearful, because we're called to do God's work and not our own works. In our first reading, Isaiah reminds each and every one of us of Isaiah's victim of God seated on the throne in the Holy of Holies in the Jerusalem temple. When Isaiah realizes that he is in the presence of God, he laments, "Woe is me, I'm doomed." He thinks that he'll die because the ancients believed that no one should see the face of God and live. But the Hebrews rooted the word translated here, doomed, to also mean brought to silence. Thus, the seraphim respond by bringing a coal from God's altar to purify Isaiah's lips. Then and only then can he respond to God's call. In our gospel reading, St. Luke reminds us to hear the words of Simon Peter's call. He's a fisherman by trade. He contemplates when Jesus tells him to take the boat out into the deep waters and to prepare for a catch. But before he knows it, the nets are bursting and the boat is full, that it is in the danger of sinking. When Peter gets to the shore, he's overcome with emotion, asking Jesus to leave him because he's not worthy. He's a sinful man. Instead, Jesus reminds him not to be afraid and invites Peter to be the fishers of all people on Jesus' behalf. And finally, in our second reading, Paul assures the community of the Corinthians that they will be saved by believing in what he preaches. What follows is a creed and a list of witnesses to Jesus' post-resurrection appearance. Paul identifies himself as the last witness to the resurrection of Jesus and the least amongst the apostles. To what does he tribute the honor of being called an apostle, other than simply God's grace? So we ask ourselves this day, how do we express God's grace in each of our lives? For Wineskins, I'm Msgr John Zuraw.
Whether your life seems empty, routine, or successful, God may have chosen this moment to reveal His power, His wisdom, and His calling to you. Listen with your heart, then cry out with gratitude, "Here am I, Lord. I come to do your will." Wineskins is made possible by the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts. Wineskins is produced by CTNY, the Catholic Telecommunications Network of Youngstown. I'm Father Jim Korda, thanking you for being with us. Have a blessed Sunday, and may God be with you.
What have you done for your marriage today?
I gave my wife a hug this morning. I told her I love her.
I did her hair this morning. I think it looks pretty good.
I cooked my husband's favorite breakfast.
I bought her an orchid.
What have I done for my marriage today? I sent my husband a love email.
I read the newspaper to my wife, and it cracked her up. But she's still laughing.
What have you done for your marriage today? Make a change for the better. Need help? Go to foryourmarriage.org, a message from the Catholic Church.
They say America is the land of opportunity, but for some, life isn't so easy. Right now in America, 1 in 6 children lives below the poverty line. That's nearly 13 million children of all races, all across our country. Where do you draw the line and get involved? You can make a difference in more ways than you think. Go to povertyusa.org today, because 1 in 6 children in poverty is one too many. A message from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development.